Welcome to another episode of Inspired Voices. I am Oliver Riera, your host, and this is Jeris Donovan. Yay. The famous Jeris Donovan. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about what you do?
Okay. Currently, I teach improvisational theater to all ages, basically, through Moonlight Stage Company. Also do improv clubs for schools, corporate improv. Pretty much anywhere someone wants some improv teaching, nice. I would do it.
Very cool.
There you go.
Awesome,
yeah.
Man. Girl.
It's all the same.
Yeah. We're bros, right?
Yeah, we're
okay.
bros. I get called sir all the time at the deli, so I'm really used to it.
Is it the walk or is it your broad shoulders?
I thought it might have been my long hair. My broad shoulders. I slouch constantly. It's
because you're tall.
Yeah, okay.
Tall people do that.
I literally, unless he thought I was Willie Nelson, I literally looked like a woman. I had long braids and a hat. It doesn't matter. It's happened 3 times, so it doesn't matter. I've given up caring. Yeah, skinny jeans. Yeah, totally Willie Nelson.
That's
anyway,
funny. That's
go
hilarious. Ahead. Where are you from?
Everywhere. I was born and raised in Kansas, and then I moved to Illinois, and then I moved to Ohio, and then I moved to Boston, and then I moved to Illinois and Chicago and LA, then Florida, and then now I'm in North Carolina.
What? Why all the moves? Is it just
family? I was an education brat, and then when I graduated college, I was pursuing a job that I got right out of school, and then I quit that job to pursue the creative field, and that took me to a few other places.
Gotcha. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. So growing up in, where was the first spot you said?
Kansas.
Kansas. All right.
It's in the middle.
Yeah, okay. All right. Now I remember. All right. So growing up in Kansas,
yes.
Was that like throughout your whole childhood you were pretty much
was.
there?
Yep. We I started in Coffeyville, Kansas, and Independence, Kansas, and then went to grade school in Highland, Kansas, which is where the eclipse was at the totality of darkness recently. Yeah. So we were famous.
You were there?
No.
Oh.
But I have the T-shirt.
Okay, Kansas
says
was
that we
famous.
were the
Gotcha.
yeah.
Right.
So I feel like I was there.
That's hilarious. Let's actually name some of your credits for the people who don't know.
Okay.
So you've trained people from where?
We'll back up. I moved to Chicago to study improv, and I studied at the 3 different theaters there. IO, Second City, and a little bit of Annoyance, and then played there for a few years. And then I moved out to Los Angeles, where I transitioned to IO West and did a couple teams there, which led to me doing a workshop, which led to shows that I put together. And while I was out there, I acted and did a few things on some sitcoms. And then I worked with or coached or trained the majority of people that you see on commercials or television shows today. Yeah. So, I mean, it's the flavor of the past few years for anything, it seems, commercial or whatever, has been improvisers. So
right, yeah, that's true.
There's at least
especially
3 degrees, especially with comedy. So there's at least 3 degrees of separation, if not 1, between me and someone.
And someone that's on TV
right.
or something like
yeah.
that. Gotcha. Well, just to name a few.
I hate name dropping.
I know.
I really hate it.
I'm not gonna name drop, but I will because I don't really know their names, but not their full names. Mm-hmm. But I will mention you trained someone from Modern Family.
No, I worked actually on a team with Eric Stone Street.
Oh, you worked
with Eric.
Okay.
And then I knew him in Chicago, and then when I went out to LA, he was already out there. And I think by then he might have been on CSI doing the handwriting analysis. What's that word? Yeah. But we were on a team together. And then I had a team called Big, which was comprised of plus-size men. And when I moved from Los Angeles, he took over coaching that for me.
Oh, cool.
So, which actually, Dana Powell, who plays his sister on Modern Family, who's a brilliant improviser, she was on Big, and there you go. Now she plays his sister. So those
Very
connections stayed together.
Oh,
yeah.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
And they're awesome people. So it's...
Okay.
I get a little teary every time I see him do
that. Oh, okay.
A little teary.
All right. Well,
Anyway.
In that case, let's just go back. So growing up in Kansas.
Yes.
How was that? Was it boring?
Yes. I credit fourth grade for being my the most creative time of my life, which sounds really strange until I was an adult, because you had nothing. I mean, we didn't have restaurants, so maybe they'd come and go, but it was always just some family that would, put up a dairy bar or something, and then it would disappear. Pizza Hut was like 30 minutes away. So you really had your imagination. There were 3 channels on the television, and the babysitters normally watch soap operas, so it's kind of limited. Yeah. So you really had your imagination. And I had a very dear friend named Shannon who was very creative too. And in fourth grade, we would write these plays, and they would star our other 2 friends, Mike and Tim. And we had like the May Day play and all this other stuff. And that teacher was so cool about letting us write them and direct them and put them on for the class. And the class was very tolerant. And I really realized like that's what I love to do. And had I not had that freedom with the teacher to do it, I would never have known that. It took me many years to get back to that. Yeah. But that, I would say, would be the moment where, had I followed that and pursued that all the way through, everything would have gone a little quicker, I would have gotten to it sooner. Yeah. So for that, I really cherish that time in Kansas, because I look at that specific year as being very telling of what I needed to do.
Interesting. I find it like it seems like a pattern where the best comedians or the greatest comedians come from a lonely childhood.
Oh, yeah. We were total latchkey kids. Yeah. Our parents were terrible. I mean, no, they were wonderful people. But I mean, the 70s, I'm old. So the 70s, we were just really ignored as children. I mean, just really ignored. And it was,
I was ignored
outside.
too. So.
Yeah, it's like go outside, come in when you're done. They really didn't have much of an idea of what we were doing or needed, because they both had careers and were doing whatever they were doing. And so you really were autonomous, and you were really left to your own devices to create your own entertainment.
Were you a trouble kid?
No, I was terribly well behaved. I was just awfully well behaved. Probably the most trouble I would have been in is if they knew I was sneaking watching Monty Python on Sundays, when I probably shouldn't have been. It wasn't really age appropriate. Or Benny Hill, which is really not age appropriate. Right. But it was on PBS, so it was one of the 3 channels we got. But and then eventually my dad would let me watch MASH before I really should have been. Nice. But that's where I got my sarcasm. So, because they really didn't put that stuff together. I mean, my mom snuck me into Saturday Night Fever because she wanted to see it. I should not have been seeing that movie at that time. And so, but
that's funny. Okay. All right, cool. Awesome. So your parents pretty much supported you throughout your whole...
Financially, yes, but they had absolutely no desire for me to pursue anything creative, which is why, like a good Midwesterner, I suppressed on my creative.
I was going to say, because like Midwesterns, like they usually go like the traditional route,
and that's what I had to do. Right. Yes, they were just really not supportive at all, which is why I love the parents of the students I have, because they are so incredibly supportive. I mean, they come to all the shows. They let these kids pursue something that's really different. It's not football or lacrosse.
Right,
it's
they
improv.
ask like, what can I do to help and stuff like that.
Right, they're so amazing, and I really appreciate that. I'm sure the kids don't because they're too young to know to appreciate it. But I appreciate it, parents, because I know what that means. Yeah. I can imagine if I had that kind of support at the age that they're at now. I mean, that was basically the age that I was learning this is what I want to do. And I didn't have that kind of support, and they do. So I see these kids and think some of these kids should be writers, should be this, should be that. Yeah. And they have that kind of support behind them. But no, I did not. My parents were very traditional, and I was told I could not major in creative writing. I had to major in business, and I had to get a job right out of school. So I did. I was in sales. Sales? For Mead Paper.
Mead Paper? Yeah. Oh, interesting.
MEAD, the spiral notebook people.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's hot. But the good thing is, silver lining, the good thing is that I had to get the Northeast Territory. There were a few territories up, and I was stuck there. I'd never been to Boston, and I had to drive and find a place and all that, and knew nobody. had no reference at all because I'd only been to Kansas and Colorado.
Yeah.
And so I was forced to become my own little adventurer and figure everything out. And once I got settled, the first thing I did was say, wait a minute, I'm on my own. I'm going to take an acting class. And I found this acting class, and then I eventually found a stand-up comedy class, and I started doing stand-up comedy open mics. And
where was that at? In Kansas? Oh, Boston.
Yeah, right out of
cool.
school. So I was cultivating that side while
Yeah.
being practical and going to my sales job. And
That's smart.
Yeah, and eventually, the one bled into the other, and I got much better at presentations. And I was like the only woman in the entire territory, so it
Yeah.
was really a weird dynamic. So you needed to have a sense of humor.
Yeah. I bet.
Yeah, especially in the 90s. And
Right.
so I was able to do that. So, again, being on your own, realizing what you deeply want to do, and then just finding where it is and where you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And Boston's great for that. And they had an amazing open mic circuit.
Yeah. You seem more like a Boston girl.
Do I?
You got that Boston vibe.
Really?
I don't know. It's just like that underground, rugged.
I don't know. Do I? Maybe the, what's that street? Lansdowne Street side, because that was like back in, the more grungy days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Pearl Jam there.
Oh, nice.
But that back then, like Dave Cross was doing an open mic, who
Right.
you remember
Oh, wow.
from Mr. Show, and I saw Louis C.K. Like early at an open mic one night, and I remember thinking, oh, that guy's really funny, and just kept kind of keeping an eye on where he might show up, and then you look at him now. Of course, now it's
Yeah.
probably not good time to
Yeah.
bring his name up. Anyway.
Too soon.
But and Anthony, I blank on his last name. He had just left a particular open mic that he was running to go to L.A. Drew Carey had just done his sit down on the Tonight Show and got to sit with Johnny Carson. Like everything was
Wow.
just happening for
This
a
is
lot
brewing.
of comics, right? So it was a very competitive time and a very educational time. So I was able to learn stand-up very fast and really trial by fire.
So you didn't really learn from anyone? You didn't have like a coach or?
I did. I took a class with someone and met some dear people through that class, and we all ended up sort of doing the circuit together. So we had like this little posse of people that would go from open mic to open mic, and then when they would have different, showcase nights, like we'd all sort of do it, or you'd just work the different areas. You could have, Rhode Island and Boston and Maine. Like there were a lot of places to do comedy then. It was
Yeah.
the booming time. It was before the big dry spell.
Was it overwhelming getting into the scene when there's so many like great acts and like everyone's doing great?
It was
So
very
much competition?
competitive. I
Yeah.
mean, it was very competitive. I wouldn't say it was overwhelming. It made you not be lazy. You had to always have great material. You had to know you were going to be hazed and harassed, and you had to have really thick skin, especially as a female.
Yeah.
Because I was one of the fewer ones. But if you can handle that, then you were fine. If you
Right.
couldn't handle that, then you probably would have a challenge.
Yeah. You're probably out soon.
Yeah.
Which is sort of what I want to talk to you about a little bit is your strength and your thick skin, because you have such, I think, one of the thickest skins I've seen.
So weird. I'm an elephant. I'm going to take that as a
It
compliment.
is a compliment. It's a very good compliment, especially
Like,
coming from a Latino.
Where are you going with that?
But like,
That's
where does that
hilarious.
come from? Like, did you have like your whole life have to have thick skin, pretty much?
Yeah, I would say so. Well, my maiden name was Nutt, N-U-T-T. So from a very early age,
yeah.
I had to deal with hazing, and that, that makes you pretty tough, I
Yeah.
think. And my parents were not very communicative, and they weren't very affectionate. So you had to just sort of not take that personally, So that combination of hazing and lack of nurturing, it
Yeah.
makes you sort of tough. It makes you just like, okay, suck it up, buttercup. You're not going to be baby. Just get on. And I think I have that attitude about a lot of stuff, which has helped tremendously. It helped a lot in stand-up because that was in the prime sexual harassment days. So you had to be ready to deal with that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How was the first experience with stand up? Like the first time you went on stage?
The very first time I went on stage.
Was that was in Boston, right?
That was in Boston. Yeah, my sister was visiting me, and it was packed. It was so packed. And it was back when you would have to go sign up like a day before and at a certain time and just pray that you got on this list of names. And then you had to go back the night of and see if you were picked. I mean, it was an ordeal.
Jeez. Wow.
Yeah, it's not, people, y'all are pussies. Like this stuff, like you had to really want to do it.
Yeah.
And that's what I think weeded people out. Like you had to commit.
Yeah.
And so I'd survived all that, and just so happened that my sister was in town when I got to get up, which was great to have somebody there to tell you if you sucked or not. But it went really well, and I can still visually like see the space and remember that day. And it was enough to say, yeah, go ahead and keep doing this and see where this goes.
Yeah.
But I hadn't really discovered improv yet. So that was to me, well, I did improv in college. It was short form. Mm-hmm. But I hadn't.
Did you enjoy it there?
I did. I loved it. But I think I have been writing stand-up all through college. I just didn't know that that's what I was doing.
Ah,
you know?
Interesting.
So I started putting it all together and finding the outlet for it. And I think stand-up's the kind of thing that you really need life experience to make better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So the more life experience, I think the better it's gotten. Whereas...
Did you know that early on?
No, not so much. Like I just had like that different way of looking at things and writing that kind of stuff down.
Right.
But I hated saying the same thing every night. That bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know that there was another thing, because short form's not quite the same as long form, you know. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you did stand up. Did you want to, like, as soon as you started performing and stuff like that, did you want to just do that for the rest of your life, or like continue studying just that?
Tough call. I mean, I did and I didn't. I mean, I knew I wanted to be performing and doing something in comedy.
Okay.
I didn't know how to achieve that given the restrictions by my family.
Right. Well,
So I thought the best thing to do was to marry the two. So I had done enough stand-up, and I actually got into a sketch comedy troupe with some Brandeis graduates, and we did a couple performances, and that also added to the, okay, I really like this thing, this sketch comedy thing and performing. So I decided to quit my job and move back to Illinois to pursue a master's degree in creative writing, which is what I should have been allowed to do in the first place. And that appeased the parents, because they were like, okay, that's normal, it's smart. Because I was still 22, whatever at the time.
Right.
And, but once doing that, I then was doing like plays and doing that at the same time. And then eventually I got really close to graduating and said, nah, I'm moving to Chicago. And so I did. So I moved to Chicago and
Interesting.
started
so
studying.
You didn't graduate?
I have since,
You
but
have
I
since,
did not
okay.
then. I just stopped
Gotcha.
it. Yeah, I was like, I'm done.
I thought you had a master's in English or something.
I do.
Oh, is that
yeah,
what it is?
that's
All
what
right.
I stopped doing, but now it's completed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. When did you finish it?
I finished it in 2004.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'll have to get you a coffee. Very cool, though. So, okay, then you went to Chicago. How was that?
I went to Chicago.
Was that a big step for you? Or was
Huge
that
step.
Okay.
It's luckily I'd already had some big city training, so Boston is very much like a mini New York to me. And
That's
Chicago
that's what
felt,
people say, yeah.
Yeah, and Chicago felt more like a town kind of, because
Really?
it was Midwest. It wasn't as bustling as it. I mean, it's, right now the traffic's so much crazier.
Right.
But it felt more town-like. It felt more accessible. I don't know, something about it. And I knew more people there from college and whatnot, so I had people to sort of whatever
Just
couch
bounce around,
crash and
yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's so much to do there. There's so much theater. There's so much comedy. There's so much improv that, again, it was that thing of where I felt kind of behind, so I had to make up a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I did. So I
Started
went
hustling.
to everything. I went to everything I could see. Every night I would go see a show. I would go catch a play, whatever, anything that I could afford or do, I'd figure it out and I'd watch it and I'd take notes.
Mm-hmm.
I still have notes from that stuff. And then I took a class at IO, fell in love with that program, and then interned for them so I could then afford Second City classes. So, just sort of hustled everything, made it all work. Felt like the shell game.
Now, did you know about those places like IO and
I did.
Second City, like how big they were?
I did. I mean, I didn't know so much about IO. I started at Second City, and then people said, you need to look at IO. And then I went to IO, and I said, this is
why
more my jam.
Because it's more...
it's more about...
improv-based, right? Isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, Second City is. It's just that it felt like they're doing... At the time, they were doing improv to go to sketch. And IO was really more about just the pure form of improv, and the style of improv spoke to me more. The teachers, I just sort of clicked with what they were saying more, and that's specifically my experience. They're both wonderful places to be, and I know teachers at both places that are amazing people. But just during my experience, things speak to different people at different times, and that at that time spoke to me. But I saw the value in both still. So I did the taking at the same time.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Oh, just let you know, you can move the mic wherever you want, whenever you want.
That's very...
You do whatever you want, girl.
Exciting.
It's black. No, anyways. So, Second City.
Yes.
IO West, IO East.
Just IO, Improv Olympic. Right.
Okay.
Right.
What was the difference that you saw there as far as improv goes? Like, did you see a difference in improv in the improv lessons that they taught?
Yes, I liked at IO. Well, I think it also like I said, it's the teacher at the time that you have, and I always feel you meet people for reasons,
right?
And when I went to Chicago, I think I had a lot of karma in the bank, because when I went to Chicago, I just kept meeting the right people for me, I met this one, I needed an acting coach quickly, and I met this one acting coach, and she said, you need to be with this person. And that person and I just completely clicked. We still keep in contact to this day. He was amazing for what I needed. And then when I went to IO, of course, you take your first class with Sharna, and that felt very familiar because I'd already had a couple classes at Second City, so it was a very easy sort of transition. But then my next class was with Miles Stroth, who is very much a student of improv while he's a teacher of improv at the time. Like, I haven't worked with him since, but I mean, so he was actively analyzing everything. Like, there'd be times when we like a scene would happen, and he'd get back up on stage and he'd just really sort of rehash it out, because he was still trying to figure things out himself. And I really liked that analytical approach to what makes comedy work, and what makes dynamics work, and why did this happen, and what would have happened if this happened. And it felt very collaborative, and it felt inclusive.
Yeah.
So, and it was a time when my brain needed to start allowing itself to get back to doing that. And at the same time, I had just started taking a Meisner class, which was all about letting those Midwestern suppressed emotions out and let yourself feel things. So the combination of his style of teaching and Meisner just
meshed together.
Yeah,
and
I just created this big chemical thing, right? So that was very much an aha moment. And then from then on, Second City was more something I was just getting through to graduate.
Okay.
My true energy was connecting much more to IO. Yeah. But again, just for me. For me.
Did you have classes with anyone that's a celebrity now? Because Second City's known for that, right? So. Yes.
No, because let's see, Tina Fey she was teaching and then had left before I got to her level. But I was actually on a team with someone who had her and just said the best teacher ever. So I was so jealous that he got to take from her. She was performing on the main stage with Rachel Dretch, and Scott Adsit, Kevin Dorff, Rich Tellerico, who writes for Key and Peele and all that. They were all performing at that time. And then on the ETC stage, people like Laura Kraft and Neil Flynn were performing. So people who are really at the top of the game now.
Yeah, they graduated, they just perform now.
Were who I can now watch every night.
Right.
You know, so like, I don't know if it's still like this, but at Second City, after they did their set, anybody can go in and watch the free improv set.
Mm-hmm.
So all of us would make sure we would go to watch these people improvise, because why not learn from the experts? So being able to not only see the review from time to time, but also see that was just wonderful.
Yeah.
So from that respect, I had the best people to watch and study. They just weren't teaching me directly.
Did it make you want to like work harder?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. There was a time when I saw a set that was so amazing. Like, I just walked home the whole way. I didn't take a cab or anything or ride with my friends. I'm like, no, I'm walking home. And it was probably 2 miles. But I just kept walking and processing everything. Just like, I was just so amazed by what happened. But I watched stuff like that. You know, I watched like, how did that work? How did that?
Yeah,
and just,
that's how I do it too.
Yeah,
with
process
acting.
it the whole way. It was really impactful. When I went to LA, though, I did have some amazing coaches. Pat McCarthy of Pitt Theater in New York was one of my coaches. Neil Flynn was one of my coaches. Brian Boland was my coach in Chicago, was on the main stage and done films and things like that. Like, some really talented improvisers were my coaches. So I was very fortunate there, too.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you started teaching, right, at IO?
IO West.
IO West. Okay,
right.
so when you moved out to LA, you started teaching.
Not right away. No,
Yeah.
you have to prove yourself.
Of
so,
course, right.
Yeah.
But what took you from Chicago to LA?
I had the fortune of getting a few gigs, television gigs. I had a great agent, and that was sort of at that moment where, because like I got the late start, I was at that age where it's like, if you're going to go to LA, you got to go now, because you're not getting any younger. And I'd already done a little bits on most of the shows that were filming there at the time for the different networks that were filming there. And so,
Like what?
Like Early Audition and a show called Turks. I mean, no one knows these shows anymore because it's so long ago. They're like, oh yeah, okay. So they're just it's old, you know. So my agent connected me with an agent out there, and I transitioned out there. Gotcha. Yeah.
And then you just like automatically just went to
Automatically
IO West.
started, went to IO West because it was.
Did you take classes
home.
out there? Or did you
no, because I'd already.
You've done all
done
the classes.
all
I was
the
curious about like
classes,
how did
right.
you get into the IO? Like what did you start doing there?
I met with some of the people that were sort of in charge at the time, and so they kind of like found they were really gracious about when the Chicago people came out, finding them a place to be. It was a
cool.
nice, brother-sister relationship. So they put me on a team of other people, some who had been in Chicago, like Eric, whatever, had been in Chicago. And I performed on a team, and then someone else had asked me to be on another group. So I had a couple different teams going. And then one day I was looking at all the teams, and you know how each team had like one woman?
Yeah.
Because that was the allotted amount that a team should have.
Oh, really?
Seemed that way. And I looked at I went to all the different shows all the time and stuff, and I thought, boy, if that person and that woman and that woman and that woman and that woman would all get together.
Now these are groups that you
pretty
did
badass.
not
I was not
right?
working
You
with
were
them. In
just a
fact, I
part
didn't
of it.
even know some of these women. I just watched them like hadn't even met them really yet. And so I approached a couple of them, and I said, what if we all did an all-female thing? And I remember my one friend was like, I can't say it, but she cusses.
You can cuss if you want.
Oh, that's all right. She's like, no, women, it's going to be a bunch of, tampon jokes and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, that's not what I have in mind. She was really resistant to it. And,
has there ever been a female improv group?
there was in Chicago called Jane, which had Stephanie Weir and some other amazing instructors, Sue Gillen. I mean, just great. I mean, amazing people.
Yeah, but obviously not a lot.
But yeah, not. And I don't think there was any in LA at the time.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and that was my point. I was like, this is ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. And so we all got together, and we had our first rehearsal and went, kind of did what we were doing. And then afterwards, I had them all sit down, and we talked about it, and they were like, oh my gosh, this is not at all what I expected. And oh my gosh, like this is really freeing. And oh my gosh. And so we became Bitch Planet. It
That's
ran
the
for
name? Nice.
Bitch Planet. It ran for about a year and a half, and It was
You guys sound like
awesome.
rebels.
Yeah, it was an awesome experience. It really was. And what happens then too is, the strength you get from this freedom and this ability to really be everything, not, the woman. And, there's still that dynamic back then of all the stereotypical female whatever and would be directed that way.
Just like with females in stand-up.
Yeah. So having everybody together, you had to be everything. And that strength then that you get from that, you take back to your team of all dudes, and you're less likely to become the recipient of an initiation.
Would you say that's a good way to build up the thick skin?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you have any video footage of any of the groups that you
Gosh,
started?
you see, that's back when they didn't have cameras.
No, but I was like picturing you with like a big bulky camera.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, go.
I know there's some somewhere because we used to do really cool shows. Like I saw a picture the other day of we had a Bitch Planet prom. Where half of us dressed in like cheesy tuxedos and half of us dressed in like the prom dresses, and we would have sort of these thematic different shows, and different. We had a very iconic opening, and we do these different things with the form and with the different actresses. They were really unique people, really unique energies in the show, and I mean now they're all doing such amazing stuff too, which is incredible, and so it just allowed for so much. So I do have some pictures of different things, but I know we have a video somewhere.
I saw a picture of I think it was your improv group, maybe in a newspaper or something like that, and you were like,
that might have been.
I think.
That was Bitch Planet. Yeah,
that was
Bitch Planet.
That's what
2.
I thought it was. All right.
Yeah, second version. Yeah, we had some changes after a year and a half, and that was Bitch Planet 2. Yeah, that was in the newspaper. That was our the pick of the week, LA pick of the week.
So you guys performed, obviously, right?
We did. Yeah.
How was the first show that you guys had? Because it is an all-female group, and there was none.
Awesome. Because you're everything. You're the guys, you're the girls, you're the this, you're the that. So it's super freeing. And from that is where I got the idea for Big, because it's that same kind of thing. Those Chris Farley types that are always being forced to be that type. Well, if you put them all together, they're everything. Yeah. And it was one of my favorite groups. They were so good.
And that's when you worked with Eric too, right?
He took over that, right?
He took over that.
I had to move back to Illinois because my father had gotten sick, and he took over directing that. So,
gotcha.
yeah, and he was perfect for it because he is so damn talented.
How was that group though? The big group. What was it called?
Big.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
They were awesome, and it was just its own thing. It was super playful. Yeah. Super accepting.
And it was long form.
It was long form. Cool. And I remember one night, these two guys, Todd and Johnny, they were in a scene where it was a date. And I've told this story before, so if you've heard it before, just, pause for now or mute. They were on a date in this scene, and, they're in that intimate moment, and the first kiss is about to happen. And it was very authentic, very, very truthful playing. And that's what I do love about I.O. is the play is so truthful. So they're having this very true moment, and it's obviously the awkward need for a first kiss kind of thing. And they went for it and had this adorable little kiss. And the audience just burst. I mean, and they weren't laughing like, oh, it's two guys kissing. They were laughing because they were so glad they did it, because it was needed in the scene. And it was, just such a freeing moment. Like it was probably, there's a few moments in my directing of groups that stand out as being like such huge moments. And that was one of them.
Nice.
When they got done, like they just kind of looked at each other, and the eyes that they had of each other on stage, like, that was like, because they had experienced something crazy and freeing too.
Right.
And afterwards, like, they're like, that was the most awesome experience I've ever had on a stage. Like, that felt so free and whatever. And it was great. It was very authentic, And I loved that about that. But that's the kind of moments they were allowed to have because they were free to be anything and do anything. Yeah. And that's what I always try to push in my groups is, you're going to be put in a box in life. You're going to be put in a box if you're an actor, always. But that does not exist on an improv stage. And I don't know why people keep trying to force themselves in one when no one's doing that.
Yeah, it's all on them. It's all in their mind.
Yeah.
Right? That's funny. When you... I heard that you were...
From who?
You almost... I'm not going to mention any of my sources, but that you almost got a major TV show, but then a celebrity took over and.
Oh yeah, that was nuts.
Was that the last straw for your acting career? Right there?
Yes and no. I mean, yes, in that
because that's got to be tough, man. Like as an actor myself,
tough.
It's hard to see.
The whole process is weird. I mean, it's the stuff that you think you just kind of like, whatever, and you go in for, and then you're like, what? I'm going to producers for, okay. And it's like, what? I'm going to network for that? Okay. Mm-hmm. And that was one of those moments.
That's what I said yesterday, actually, to myself. I was like, what?
Yeah.
They want to see me again?
Yeah. And you're just weird. Like, what?
And when I did the audition, I was like, they're not going to cast me for this. I'm just going to do whatever.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I had the same thing happen yesterday, too. We're probably talking about the same call. I was going in for a Latino man. Oh. And I was like, I'm not right for this. And then they were like, yes, you are. We want to make a few adjustments. I'm like, okay. No. But, it was... I was to play John Lovitz's ex-wife, and it was an Adam Sandler project. And I went in for one role, and as I'm standing there, they're like, "Can you read this other thing?" I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, because I was working in production by then. I started enjoying, because I've been directing so much. I mean, I had probably like 4 shows going at a time at IO at that time, and I was working in production. For an editing house, and I was just really super content creatively and otherwise. And I was working for Angus Wall, who's like an Oscar winning director. Like, it was an amazing place to work.
Nice.
And so this comes up, I'm like, okay. I mean, so if you're feeling like that, you know where you need to be, which ironically is where I was in 4th grade. I was directing those plays, right? I enjoyed that better than starring in them. Think about that. See, it all comes back. So... so when they call, I'm like, okay, I'll go. And so when I'm standing there, I'm like, yeah, it's fine, give it to me. And she was a bitch. So it was very easy to do on the spur of the moment, because I can be a bitch. Yeah. And he's like, yeah. So then, whatever, I did it, and they kind of looked at me and looked at each other. It was this real weird, awkward space. Like it's one of those pictures in your mind that it was so weird. You just kind of, it's like slowly coming out of the Polaroid, you know? Yeah. Like, this has got to stop at some point. And then I left. And then they're like, oh, you're going to go to network, like against one other person. Like, what? I mean, it's just so bizarre. And then the night before I was supposed to go, I get a call from my agent, and they say, something happened with the contracts, and it's done. It's no longer going to happen. The whole project's kaput. It's like, okay.
Oh, the whole project folded.
The whole thing disappeared. Yeah, no, nothing.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Very weird.
So, because, I'm not going to do the details, because it's sued. So I was like, okay. And so, if you're like, okay, then it's okay. Yeah. And I went back to my awesome job and kept doing what I was doing, and it all worked out. But that was a very telling moment, though, that I had found more passion in what I was doing. Yeah. Yeah, and
what was the weirdest audition request that you had for acting? Like, I got called in one time for a big black guy with dreads, and he's Jamaican. So I got called in to audition for that role.
Was the casting director on pot or something?
I have no idea, but it was for a show in Atlanta, and but I did it, and I had to sing Versace. Versace, 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 Versace. Yeah, I had to sing that. So did you have any roles like that? So weird. It is weird.
Oh, I had several.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the worst. I've had some really horrible, comedically horrible. I'd say one of the most vulnerable, awful. Because when you make the decision in your brain that you're a comedian, it's difficult to deal with people seeing. At the time, I was blonde, and so it's difficult to see how people see you physically when you know what you are inside.
Yeah.
Okay. So I got a lot of calls for how I looked physically. So, well, we need you in a bikini, and and you're sitting in similar to this, with lights in front of a casting person in a bikini. I mean, that sucks, you know. But if it pays the bills and you can keep whatever. So I hated that stuff because it had nothing to do with what I did. It just happened to be what I looked like, and that bothered me a lot. Then I'd have the bizarre ones where, there was one where I was a woman making microwave meals or something like that, and this little cartoon burger with wings was coming to tell me that they had a better idea for dinner, and I had to act like this cartoon burger, and I just remember saying to this person, now, am I nervous about the burger, or am I like, oh, it's the burger again, because you're having this kind of conversations, which is really strange. I had a couple creepy auditions. I had one super creepy audition for a show where it was just the casting director and I in his office, and he wanted me to act with him. And in the scene, the girl was begging to keep her job and be
persuasive,
intimate, persuasive, sexual with him. And I was like, that's so creepy.
Yeah. Did he have a hidden camera too?
I don't know. Full circle.
Yeah.
Only a few will get that callback. It was really, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
Yeah.
Then I had some. Then sometimes, what I love about the taping thing we have now is that the casting people are hopefully watching it when it's the smartest time to watch it. Okay? Because I remember some of the days where you would be waiting for an hour to get called in.
Yeah.
And episodes like this one time, it was just all of us, all of us improvisers, I see that they're all in different things now. We're all waiting there. And they had some non-improvisers too. And I remember waiting an hour. I even called my agent. I said, I've been here an hour. Can we give me another time? I had to be somewhere else. And they're no, just stick it out. We'll, move the other one, blah, 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 blah. And this guy had gone in before me who was this hot little dude, right? Not an improviser, hot dude. And I went and finally I got in after him, and the casting director was a female, and she was literally sexually hysterical. She was so obviously affected by his looks that she could not function. She was just twittery, jittery, just kind of, just really.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and what sucked is I knew the writer on the show, I knew a producer on the show, I was like, okay, I'm here for a reason. And it wasn't being taped. She just couldn't. Nope.
Damn.
And I was done. I was so pissed. And I called my agent. I said, I'm never going back to that bitch again. This is ridiculous. So unprofessional. I can't stand it. Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
So this whole thing of tapes is so much better.
Yeah, it
in
is.
that
It's
respect,
very. Yeah.
But I do miss that in the room working with other actors.
There's something about it that just puts you in the moment even more. I don't know. It's just, you're just there.
Yeah.
And you're able to express it in the best way. It's a competition. It's like a competition.
Oh, it is.
You just go in there and just do the best you can.
So amp it up. I mean, because you used, especially for commercials and stuff, they would, if they would sort of pull me aside for the wife or something, then they would just send husbands in, and make you just improvise scenarios until they found the husband that, would keep up with you. And you had it was just some fun auditions for that kind of stuff. A lot of fun.
Did you continue doing stand-up after, throughout
I did
LA?
some, and that's, again, one of those things where you're everything happens for a reason. I was just about to start doing stand-up, and I went to the Comedy Store, and that was another one of those things where you had to wait 3 hours to get a number.
Performed at the Comedy Store?
Yeah, to get a number, to do the open mic, because I should have just said, okay, I'll be the asshole that calls their agent to get him a time slot at the comedy, but I wanted to do it myself. I was used to doing shit myself. I wanted to do it myself. So I went the route everybody goes. And there's 40 people there. and you're all waiting to get a number or a blank. So you get this slip of paper after waiting 3 hours, and then see what your number is. And if it's a blank, oh well, thanks for your 3 hours. And if it's a number, then that's the number you do when you come back and do this. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So, yeah.
So you just stuck to.
So I stuck to improv. But I mean, my plate was pretty full at the time, so it was fine.
Were you still editing that?
That was before I went to the editing house. That was when I was just doing acting, and I was fortunate enough that I had the things in Chicago help sort of sustain me, so I could just audition all day, and then I got some gigs out there, which allowed me to sort of sustain myself. Living reasonably, a reasonable, creative, starving artist.
There you go.
Yeah,
especially in LA. I mean, LA at that. Well, still, it's hard out there.
Yeah,
especially
when
you're
trying gas.
Gas.
It's not like Chicago. You could be on the L everywhere, but you need gas. You
Yeah,
can't walk.
that, and it's expensive out there too. So,
yeah.
How was living out there? Was it like? Did you live in a studio apartment where there's like rats and stuff?
No, I lived in a like a real world house where there were possums.
Oh,
and raccoons. Rats, skunks. It's true. I moved out there, and I was staying for 2 weeks at this super nice house in Beverly Hills that were friends of my parents, and they had like a guest house, and they had a security guard.
What?
And so it was actually like what would have been a garage, probably a small home to most of us, but it was a garage to them. And in the front was the security guard's office, and in the back was this really nice little guest house with a kitchen and all that kind of stuff. And so she said she can stay out here for a couple weeks till she finds a place. Because, I mean, when I went, it was like, bam, go now. So I had no... And I'd never been there. I'd never been past to Colorado. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Knew nothing. And so it was like, here's your Thomas guide. And because we didn't have cell phone GPS back then. It was this massive, thick book. I'm showing the microphone.
There you go. Right
this massive, thick book that, like, each street had a page. And you would, like try character building. So I looked in the newspaper, like the night I arrived, I looked in the paper and saw this house. It was like $400 a month rent for a little room in a house. I'm like, how bad can it be?
Doesn't seem bad to me.
Yeah. So I went to see it, and it was an old Charlie Chaplin house. And in the front, there was like a apartment, which used to be probably like a living room. And then there was an apartment, which used to be like a dining kind of room with lots of windows. And then there was a big entryway and a kitchen. And then they divided the upstairs into like 3 or 4. And then in the back of the house was a separate entry to what would have been maybe like a back parlor. It had like a fireplace and bathroom and like a kitchen thing.
Yeah.
That had its own entry. And then I was the back porch, which had its own entry, private entry, and it had a bathroom and like a 2-burner stove with a freezer refrigerator underneath. Right?
Underneath?
Right? Right? Like you'd open up the door and the freezer was this tiny, it was always like, it always looked like Mount Everest. It was always like covered.
Oh, yeah.
I never got to use it. It was just like with the next day. And there's a tiny little space in the fridge. And then on top were the 2 of the 3 burners worked, and then someone just slapped a sink there that had running water, and then you had the bathroom with a shower, and then you had this tiny little, I mean, passageway to get into the bedroom. But it was, I mean, in New York, you'd be paying what, $2,000, for that tiny thing. Yeah. It's $400 a month, and I said, yeah, cash, everything's included. Ding. Nice. But the landlord was really creepy. But it was cool because, and there was an apartment. Yeah, the place upstairs. Like, the guy upstairs is now a director. This guy's like a set designer. There was a writer there. I mean, so everyone was
working in the arts. Yeah.
So it was really kind of a cool, very supportive house.
Did you like that about that LA? Because like everyone
did.
in LA is in arts pretty much.
Yeah, everybody is accepting of the fact that you're pursuing your dream, that you're pursuing your art. They
weren't like, what are you doing here from Kansas or Chicago?
No, because everybody is.
You think you're going to make it?
Yeah, because everybody thinks that.
Yeah.
Everybody's delirious out there. And I'm not the kind of person that falls into the celebrity aspect. Like, I'm not someone that, I'm not someone that wants to go to the clubs and do all that fancy stuff.
Yeah.
I hung out with improvisers mainly from the Midwest who were very real. So it just was very comfortable.
Yeah. And raw. It's just raw.
It was very safe environment to be in a potentially very unsafe city.
Were you ever mugged or something? Were you?
Not that I'm aware of. My car was broken into once. No, I've never been mugged.
Oh,
no, I'm good.
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean,
that's
LA,
more of a New York thing, but
I lived near the Latino hood for a little bit. I lived in Venice for a little bit, and then I lived.
Venice. I'm trying to think.
Well, actually, no. I was in Little Armenia with my first house. And one of the housemates did say that at one point they were all sitting on the porch one day when these black, nice, soupy, fancy vans pulled up and just drug somebody out of a house and took away. So they assumed it was possibly mafia of some sort.
Yeah, I would assume so.
So, yeah, but I loved it.
Oh, good times.
Living on the edge.
Yeah, it's very diverse. Yeah. So. What did you do after LA? Did you move to North Carolina then?
No, I moved to Illinois.
Oh yeah, you went back to Illinois to take care of your
Right,
parents.
my father.
Your father.
And I was teaching at a junior college, teaching liberal arts type stuff and acting.
Using that degree, huh?
Yeah, using that degree. I finished the degree. I went back to because it was right by where I was. And
so you
I went back to the college. I was like, hey, remember me? And they actually still have my transcripts and everything. And actually, one of my professors was still there.
Really?
And he said, I do remember you. And I said, well, this is what's happened. He's like, let's get this going.
Nice.
Unfortunately, though, my thesis chair died by the time I came back. But he picked up the slack and took over from there. So it's all good.
Yeah, at least you got the degree, right?
Hey, I got it. Yeah.
So what brought you to North Carolina then?
My husband's job brought us from Illinois to Florida.
Was that before the kids?
No.
Before you had the kids? Okay.
No. Yeah, I had the kids in Illinois, and then we moved to Florida, and that's where actually Illinois. After I had kids, is where I started stand-up again.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because I had all kinds of life experiences and
you just needed to share them. Is that why?
Yeah, needed to have that creative outlet again. You can't go that long.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, you start to get
5 years in
withdrawals and
LA,
stuff like that.
yeah, and like 2 or 3 in Chicago. I mean, that's almost 10 years of really pursuing that. You can't just be like, what? So I started doing that in Illinois, and then when we moved to Florida, I continued it there too. And then we moved up here for his job, and that's when, I started got
when you did stand up again in Florida, I know you had the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a difficult thing to balance?
A little bit. I mean, babysitters are great, but I think there was only one time where I was rethinking it because I was really enjoying it, and I was starting to get some pretty decent gigs opening up for some people, and then one night I was at Cocoa Beach. Have you been there, Matt? You been to Cocoa Beach?
I've been there.
You've been there?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the name's changed already, but and I was opening for this guy. If you were here, then you went to this other place the next night, kind of deal. You know what that's like. And there was like a meth head in the audience and his girlfriend, and I was gonna have to be, mean, and deal with it. Yeah. And the mom in me is like, oh, I really don't want to do this, like he's someone's child. So I started to do that to kind of get, things back. And I just was uncomfortable with the laughter that came with it. Like it was like it wasn't like it used to be.
Yeah. Ah, God.
I loved being a bitch. It was really uncomfortable. And I got through it or whatever. And the next night, though, was awesome. It was like probably one of the best shows I've had with the same comedian, which is good because, we saw that. And then I actually did better than him. And he was like, oh, okay, because he was trying to give me advice. And and then the next night, like, it really was an awesome night because it was all parents. Like, those are my peeps,
Nice.
It was just a great show. And but I still felt that awful feeling. So here you are. I had to stay the night. So you're staying the night in this like island hotel-y thing on like a Thursday, and it's how things look better when it's darker. Yeah. Like when I first opened the hotel room that they give you, I was like, oh. But then when I came back at night, I'm like, you know, it works. And I just thought, like, I felt icky from that whole thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, my kids are at home with a babysitter. And like, this is what I'm doing. Like, I was like, I don't like this feeling. So, yeah.
It was a little bad at like a tennis match at first.
Yeah.
But then you just decided to, just take care of the kids first.
I did. And same with here, too. Like, coming to Raleigh, it's that same thing where, I've been through that. I've done the whole work your way, earn your, pay your dues, earn your spot. I did that in the 90s. And, I'm close to 50, so I don't need to do that shit anymore, I don't. I'm not there.
It's time for you to pass it on.
Yeah, I enjoy doing it when the opportunity arises, but that's not my pursuit right now, you know? Like I like it to stay where it is, which is fun to do, but it's not something that is going to really even become who I am. So I already am who I am. I've been there. So I love that they're all doing it. But when I see that you have to go, put your name in, wait to see when it, and I think the first time I went over here, I think I had to wait till like 10 at night to do my set.
Jeez.
And I was like, come on, like my kids go to school in the morning,
Yeah.
and I gotta get up at 5. Like, I don't want to do this shit, So, and then by then, you know what it's like, man, like it's, people start to leave, like, so then you're doing this for like 8 people. I'm like, no, I've done this, I don't want to do that. So I
That was the first and the only time that you did it in North Carolina, right?
No, I've done it since.
Oh, did?
Yeah, I've done it since. I did the competition. You saw that one. And I've gone up a couple other times when I didn't have to wait super late. Yeah, and it was fun, but it's not worth shaking everything up again,
Yeah. Yes, kind of like starting all the way to the bottom.
Yeah. And I'm like, for what? I'm not. It's not like I'm pursuing a stand-up career,
right? Yeah. You're just doing it for fun.
Yeah, I'm doing it for fun. So, so if it arises, great. But otherwise, like, God bless those that are doing that. Give them that spot,
Yeah.
So
right.
I'm equally, if not more, fulfilled seeing my students do a kick-ass show. Honestly, like I can be so happy for them for like a week to 2 weeks. Just so happy that they achieved what they couldn't imagine they could achieve.
Yeah.
So
knowing that you passed on that torch and just like, and they're taking that torch and it's just like running with it, man.
Yeah.
Just
it's so inspiring. So it's almost that same kind of rush in a weird way.
Yeah. It's
same.
Yeah. Pretty much. So when did you decide that your kids, like, did you always want your kids to be in the arts?
No.
Really?
No.
What?
Well,
odd. That's odd, Jeris.
Having worked with child actors, like, no.
That's true. They can be kind of wild.
Yeah, they can be nuts and just horrible people.
But your kids are like,
my kids are
they're very respectable.
Well, they better be.
Yeah. They're smart too. And
they are smart.
They're very mature for their age, I'd have to say.
Yes and no.
As far as what I've seen.
As far as what you've seen,
yes.
It's like the magic wears off after so long.
Yeah.
Then you have to.
Who's the hyper one? Because I know you got 2 kids. Who's the hyper one? Because I don't see any of them being hyper.
Yeah, they are. You just don't see that.
Yeah.
I'm
guessing it's Jilly.
She could be hyper. JC can be hyper. She can in a different way. But yeah, they each have completely different sense of humor, and they both have different things that they're like good at. Jill said from like day one, before she even really knew I had done anything, she was like, "Oh, I want to do this." I'm like, "Okay," just sort of, because every little kid,
do what, like improv or acting?
Whatever, yeah. Okay. I'm like, all right, that's fine, whatever. And then after like a few years, my husband's like, your mom did that, No, like, really? Because, you've seen me in my casualness, I could be like, okay. You mean that man over there at the deli counter? So then I showed her some stuff and she was like, oh my gosh. Like, then it was like, wow, it's actually possible that people can do this that are not, and completely out of my reach. Isn't that weird? So then I was like, okay, then let's get you a class. And then she did that, and just she's very type A. So she's a memorizer. So she takes things very seriously, and she really applies herself. And when she's got set on something, like, just, you need to get out of her way, So she's very much good for like that type of thing, JC's just more naturally comedic in ways I don't anticipate.
Yeah. Kind of like so JC's more of like the improv route, and then Jilly's more of the acting route.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's some stuff that comes out of her mouth that I can't believe she's thinking that. Like, she said the other day, she said, yeah, my friends at school think I should be on Saturday Night Live. And so my husband's like, oh, is that your goal? She goes, no, my goal is to be on the couch drunk at 13. And as a mother, I'm horrified. But man, that's funny. Is that funny?
Yeah,
like, I was
funny.
just like, what? Like, and if you knew her and you know her, that's like the last thing on, this cartoonist drawer's mind. But it was just so like, what? And then she hilarious. Just calmly took a drink of her water and sat down, like it was so dry and well done. I was like, and I look at him like, oh, we're in trouble. We are in trouble. Oh
my God.
So now you don't want to get in the way of that.
No, you don't.
You don't. So now I'm trying to not get in the way of that.
Yeah. And then you got like kind of find that balance, right? Of like when to be firm here, or should I be firm here? Should I be not? Stuff like that. So. But that's awesome that you got kids like that.
Rack yourself on the line between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing now.
So when I know, how did you get involved with Moonlight Stage Company?
One of JC's assistant teacher, her daughter was taking classes and getting training for him because she's an actress, and she, as I don't really talk about this stuff, especially when you move again kind of deal. And somehow she and I were talking, I think after the second time she had her as an assistant, about what I did do prior. And she said, oh my gosh, my daughter's coach, and he said he's always looking for someone to do this and that, and I should hook the two of you together. And so then I had a meeting with him, and he's like, yep, just teach a class, let's see what happens. Sounds good.
I think I was there for that meeting.
No, you weren't yet.
Okay. That was later on?
Yeah, it was later on. And there you go. So then it started with, one class or two classes? And yeah, because Emotional Sandwich and Essentials both started at that.
The kids and then the teens, right?
Yeah, the teens and then the kids. Yeah, it was
teens. And the kids?
Okay. And the next semester was teens and kids. Yeah.
I thought you started with adults, too. I joined in the class, right?
We did. We did. We had adults and teens. Then it was adults, teens, and then the kids added on.
Gotcha.
That's right, because yes, that first. Yeah,
I was there.
Yeah, and upstairs in that little room. That's right. Oops, that's right.
Yeah.
See, I told you I was old.
Yeah, it's okay. That's why you got me right here.
Thank you.
No problem.
Need to keep you here more often.
So, why improv? Not just because it can't be just because of the comedy, right?
Wow,
it has to be more than that, I think.
For such a simple question, that's a very good question. I think because it is terrifying, right? It is. It's terrifying. It's terrifying to not know what you're going to do. And I'm someone that, because I was so dependent on myself, for all these new cities I'd go to and this and that, like I felt very much a need to control things because, everything was it was like me against that. Do you know what I mean? So stand-up and then subsequently improv represented two things that I would have no control over, that I would have to let go, and I would have to trust myself or other people or what's out there and just be completely free. And that's terrifying for me. Yeah. Because I'm a planner. I like to have just a vision of either where I'm going or what's happening or how things need to all correlate.
At least a guideline.
At least a guideline, right, a sketch. So that they always say do something that scares you, so that's what started me, is that what kept pushing me is anytime I'd be like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to go to the open mic. I'm like, yeah, you are, because you need to go do that. You need to go scare yourself.
Yeah.
And then I'd survive it, and then and I say that a lot in my classes, like, see, you survived.
Yeah,
you survived,
I've heard you say that a few times.
Yeah, and I know what that feels like. Like, yeah, okay, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm good. Everything's still here. Okay, I could do
sweating
this.
a little bit, but I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm fine. Heart's racing, but I'm good. It's, so that's what I think initially just kept pushing me forward is, like castor oil. Like, I knew it was good for me. Even though I didn't really want to do it, it didn't sound appealing.
Yeah.
And then, and I think it's always like that. It's always a little scary, which is probably why it's important, which is why you should do it. If it was easy and if it was like, oh yeah, we'll go do this, then you shouldn't be doing it. So that's, I think, the one thing in life personally that will always challenge me. And then in other things in life, having that confidence to know that you can survive those challenges. When all the little piddly stuff happens in your life, you can solve those problems.
Yeah. Because you've been through worse.
Because you've been through worse, or you've had less to rely on, or less to help solve them with. And so, I'm able to process chaos and fix it quicker and more confidently because I have that improv training. I think it's great for parents.
And you have a calm head, too.
Yeah, you have to keep a calm head, right.
Which is a big one.
Yeah.
That's very cool. That's a nice way to put it. I like what you said. It was nice.
Oh, good, because I'm not sure what I said at all. It happens.
What do you say to people who say they're not good at improv? Because I disagree.
You're a liar.
Yeah.
You're a liar. I like to talk about. I'm the type of improv teacher that teaches individually. Like it's not like this is what we should do. It's what do you need to do. Mm-hmm. And all of my ensembles have very specific, unique individuals. Whether it's 15 kids, whether it's 10 kids, whether it's 4 kids, whether it's 6 adults, it doesn't matter. I try to really hone into what each person's gift is. And that fear, I see where that's coming from. I look at them as a person, and I try to identify where that's really coming from.
Yeah. That's what I do with my acting students.
Because it's the only way you can reach them. If you just say, you're fine, then it doesn't help anything. Mm-hmm. If you say, well, what you're afraid of is you think that you're only going to be funny if you make a joke, but what you're afraid of is that next layer, which is this or that, or and so depending on what the situation is or what the individual's challenges are. But so I would answer that differently depending on who asked me the question.
Gotcha.
All
right. I guess I won't ask you that question then.
Because I haven't seen you improvise in a while.
That's true. You haven't. I wonder how it would be in improv since I haven't done it in a while.
But one of my adults recently, like when you see people, and I thought about doing this as an exercise for a team. Mm-hmm. I'm just totally off pulling this out of my ass right now, so it's probably not appropriate to what you're doing. Good. But I was thinking this ensemble is when you dress yourself every day, right, and you make that choice, are you really being that choice all day? Are you really living that choice all day? And when you look at an ensemble, that
one choice.
Well, yeah, or if you have like a pattern to how you present yourself, is that really how you're acting? Is that really what you're living and breathing? Because I look at like say you have like 6 individuals on a team.
Yeah.
If you had each of them write what they perceive them to be like based on how they present themselves, and then ask, is this really how you're improvising? Do you know what I mean? Like say like wearing today. Like I've got very much like a mom, I'm cold outfit on.
Yeah.
But I've got, my little things that I like for me. Okay. So you would assume, what kind of an improviser would I be?
Probably someone who would go all out on something, maybe has attitude.
But safe mom wear means what? Grounded, right?
Yeah.
Practical, reliable, with a little bit of weird thrown in. Do you know what I mean? And I think about that, like, because I've analyzed. I'm like, yeah, because that's, yeah. I mean, I dress for the job I have.
Yeah.
I'm a mom. I'm a teacher. And I got, crap to do around the house. Like, I don't wear heels.
Yeah.
Like, I know moms that wear heels every day. That seems ridiculous to me. Like, I may have to run at any time. Right?
Yeah.
So if you're dressing for the job you have,
Yeah.
that's how I think. So to me, then I'm coming to this ensemble as a worker, right? Because I'm thinking, okay, my shoes are sturdy, my clothes are nondescript, I'm ready to work, but I got my own little thing going on, so I might throw some weird curves at you from now and then. But for the most part, I'm here to work. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So let's take someone that's wearing like, a very loud outfit, but then when they come to improvise, they're either reserved,
timid,
or they're doing a few jokes, or they're not emotionally invested. Then I would say to that person, well, why aren't you improvising like you dress? Like, if this is who you see you are, why aren't you improvising like that?
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
I never thought about
that.
that.
I know. I was just like, there's a recent reason for me thinking of this. But so I'd be curious, like, if you had an ensemble of people that knew each other, if you would look at each other that way and then hold them like accountable for pushing through what they think they're doing,
That's interesting. I would definitely go into that.
Yeah, wouldn't that be kind of cool?
Yeah.
Because I like to do the ones where I secretly write to you all the different characters I would love to see you play. Mm-hmm. And then you do that for other people. And then like
just like that exercise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like, you're always doing this, so I want to see you do this, 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 and this. And then you have to do that like in scenes, like to go completely the opposite of what you project. Mm-hmm. But I think first you got to make sure that you're completely authentic to you.
Yeah, it's like in order to really be a good actor or a great actor, you have to be self-aware.
Right.
You have to know yourself before you could. It's almost like you have to know yourself before you know the characters.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of psychology and all that stuff. I mean, there is.
Yeah.
Like I was doing, where was I? We were doing an exercise. Oh, it was the existentials. We did an exercise last week where you're in a scene and someone says a line to you, and so someone next to you says, you give me a line. Give me any line.
The light bulb doesn't work.
Okay, so someone next to me says to me, what emotion do you feel? And then I say to them, what emotion I feel because you said that, right? Mm-hmm. And then they say, what does it say about your relationship? And I say to them, well, blah, 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 right? And then they say, what are you going to do about that? And then I turn and I respond to you. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And one of them said, well, it's like, it's like going to a shrink. I'm like, well, improv is,
Yeah, that's what comedy is, really.
That's what comedy is. It's all, because what makes us laugh? What notes are hit, shock, all that stuff. Like there's
what's gonna
so
get
much science, and there's so much going on with comedy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's an interesting game. I like that game.
Oh, it was a lot of fun.
That's a good, it seems like a good beginner game too. Because you're asking them, okay, this is a thought process you have to have in order to respond.
And I did it actually. I did it with my young councilmen that are like 5th and 6th graders, and they rocked it.
Nice.
So really,
I'll have to remember that
age.
game. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I really, really liked it. It's hard to do that fast in a scene, but once they just start, the more consistent you are with it, the easier it is to make it about the relationship.
Right.
And get emotionally invested.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the psychology and the psychology of acting and the improv and stuff like that. That's what I really love about it.
I know. I'm a total geek about it. I love it.
We're besties.
I love it. I could analyze anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
No, I could. I love that stuff. I love analyzing how scenes work, coming up with different scenarios of like how to deconstruct things. Like
and
I'm
why,
geek.
answering all those why questions and all that stuff, and that's very cool. Do you now that you teach, do you feel like this you think you're gonna get into stand-up again after your kids grow up and stuff like that?
I don't know.
Or once they get to a certain age, because once they're teenagers, they could pretty much
they could feed themselves
and stuff. Yeah.
I would love to return to the theater when they get older, because that's a lot of commitment at night, and they're all doing their junk now. I would love to do that, for those one old lady parts that come around.
Yeah.
That's what I'll be. It'll be so long. But I don't know about stand-up. I mean, maybe, just because, I wouldn't care to do it or not.
Right.
But I really love teaching. I really do. So I hope to do that till I just, pass out on a stage floor.
That's very cool. I think you're gonna have your face on a plaque one day.
Because I passed out on stage.
No.
Oh,
as an improv
set
teacher.
Yet. Oh, damn. Oh, well. Let's just put it up and reverse it. Redo the sidewalk.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, I think that's it.
Okay.
So,
I hope I helped. I don't know what
no,
I'm
you did.
talking
No, you're fine. You're good. Did you want people to follow you as a certain? I know you're not big.
See,
into
that's
social
why I'm
media.
never wearing heels. No, I don't want people following me. I
Okay,
have children
all right.
that do that. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm not a big.
I know you're not.
I'm not.
That's
Yeah,
why I didn't
tried
write anything
those
like
things,
social media wise, but
that whole need to check in. I mean, I have people needing me on a date. I have 3 dogs and 2 kids, and a very, immaturely fun husband. So I have people that need me. I don't.
Yeah.
I
You don't need anything else.
Yeah, I used to do that stuff. I had a fun thing on Tumblr and stuff. But man, just that. Why haven't you posted? I'm like, because I'm busy. I don't.
But
do
when you
that.
do post, it's pretty funny though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But so I don't know, not following me.
Okay.
No.
No. What about
I'm old.
your Moonlight Stage Company?
Yeah. You can
find
email
you
me
on
there.
there?
Any questions? Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm on the website. Moonlight Improv. You could follow on Facebook. That's all the stuff that our various troupes are doing, and you can reach me through there as well.
Yeah. So that's Moonlight Stage Company on Facebook, and you go to the website moonlightstageco. That's co.com.
Yep.
Yeah, and you could go under the teachers list and find Jeris and email her if you have any questions about improv or children or husbands.
Yeah. Any questions at all?
Any questions at all?
Yeah.
All
I think if I would say, I don't know if we even touched on this, but like as a parting word, I think the one thing I learned in my almost half century on this earth is if anyone has the inkling to do anything, you need to find a way to do it. Nothing should be stopping you from finding a way to do it, because between, like you and I were talking about prior to this, between the internet, between just boutiques of whether it's learning to carve wood or improv or make silk scarves, like there's something out there that is maybe not the thing, but close to it, that there's really no excuse to not try to pursue something that inspires you, And I think just forcing yourself on that path is probably the hardest thing. And I see that a lot with improvisers, is you have the very outgoing, driven comedians. And then you have the more casual, laid back, self-doubting comedians that are always terribly good, but don't have that extra thing to stop shooting themselves in the foot and get to the place they should be.
Yeah.
And if anyone has any kind of interest like that, like we talked about the psychology of it, take a real deep look at yourself and say, what is it really that's keeping me from Googling that or taking that class or whatever? Because if you just put yourself on the path, so many things will take care of itself. Will open up.
I think a lot of people they see the big picture,
right?
But they don't see everything else like that comes with it.
Oh,
so
yeah.
like the first couple of steps are like the most important. So like taking that first step, they think, oh, that's just a little step. I still have so much to go, so might as well not do it.
Right.
I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah.
It's worth it in the end, but a lot of people just don't see it. But I guarantee you will learn at the end that how much better your life is because of it.
Right. I mean, on any scale that it becomes, whether it's like the beginning step, smaller scale to where it leads. You don't know where it's going to lead.
No.
You know, but you have to put yourself on the path and not stop yourself from doing that. And you have to be a student of that thing. You can't expect people to do the work for you, like you said.
Yeah.
You know, I have students that think they could just show up and audition, or they can just show up. Have you done your back work? Are you watching films with people your age in it? Are you studying different things? No. Well, then you can't be upset if you don't.
Yeah, and then you're just wasting your money on the audition tape.
Yeah, you've got, if this is a passion, no matter what it is, if it's poetry, if it's horse riding, it's whatever your passion is, like you just need to find that thing that puts you on that path and then become just hungry to learn as much about it as you can. It will all take care of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, people will be there to help you.
Yeah.
It's just the way it works. It's the
if
weirdest
you let
thing.
them.
Yeah, if you let them.
Like I grew up with my dad always saying, never accept, never ask for help and stuff like that.
Yes.
Do things on your own and stuff like that. And as I've come to find out, like what he really means by that is if you could find the information yourself, go ahead and do it yourself. But if you absolutely need someone's help, then ask.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a very, very important distinction, right? Versus expect people to do it for you or do it yourself and then find the right guides.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we're all on our own hero's journey.
Yeah.
We all have different quests. And there's it's all depending on your thing. So you can't judge other people's quests, and some quests, you may look at them and says, oh, that's your quest, but it's theirs. You can't, but we have to all remember that. And it's a challenge. And so many things can distract you, just like, in the mythical terms, there's so many things that try to take you off that path.
That's right. It's called obstacles. That's why I love acting, right?
Yeah.
You have to find those obstacles and fight through them. You can't ignore them. You just got to fight through it.
Yeah, there's a reason you're being challenged.
Exactly. To get to the next level. And that's one of the things that I struggled with for like 24 years. But then I finally got sick of it so badly that I went to it.
Yeah.
And then I was like so much happier then.
Yeah, but you have to get to the point where you no longer accept it.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, it's not going to,
It took me 24 years, but I got there. It's better than, 64.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Even if you are 64, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't
You
matter.
can do something now. You still have time.
That's true.
As long as you're alive, you're good.
Pretty much.
And we'll end it there.